Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hey everyone, this is the Big Three NBA podcast. I'm Kwani Lunis with Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn. Miami is headed to Cancun.
Bye-bye.
And the Celtics put them away. As you know, Game 5 win, 118-84. Jaylen Brown and Derek White both with 25 points. Jason Tatum with 16 and 12. That was a fun series. You know, they had us in the first half, but they closed out with a very solid win in Game 5. But overall with this series, who would you guys say, let's start from the top, who would be the series MVP of this round for Boston?
I'll go with the closer, Derek White. D. White came through when they needed him. Because, I mean, look, you go back and you look at the numbers and just the way that Jaylen Brown and Tatum played those last couple of games, and you'll see what Derek White was able to do. There's no doubt he was the guy that put them over the top. And that's what you need this time of year. Your best players are not always going to play their best games, and you still got to find ways to win. And the Celtics were able to do that in large part because of what Derek White did. I thought the last couple of games, not only was he scoring the ball more, he seemed to be a little bit more engaged defensively. You know, they had that drop coverage that they love to do. I thought Derek did a really good job of sticking with that drop coverage, but making sure that he closed off any and all airspace for guys like Tyler Hero and Caleb Martin and anyone else he had to defend. I thought he was the guy that was the difference maker for them getting over the hump and going on to the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. It was Derek White. I mean, Jason and Jaylen, neither of them had great series. They had moments in the series that were good, but Derek White, mostly every game was just, just tremendous. I mean, just taking advantage of every opportunity he got, scoring the ball at the rim, hitting threes, making defensive plays, just being a complete menace for the Miami Heat. And the Miami Heat had absolutely no answer for him. I mean, no answer for him. And that's what they needed. You know, the Celtics were challenged in Game 2, and they need to know that they can win a series without Brown and Tatum being great. I mean, let's look at the numbers.
Okay. Research. Here we go.
Derek White, 22.4 points, 57% from the field, 47.7% from the three-point line. Just immaculate series. Jason was not great, not a good series for him. 21.8, 41% from the field, 29% from the three-point line. Did not have a good three-point series. Also missed 9 free throws in the series, so he needs to be better. Jaylen led the team in scoring, 22.8, 7 rebounds, 52% from the field, 32% from the three-point line. So if you put Jason and Jaylen together, they hit 18 threes in the series. Derek hit 21. So shows you the value of Derek White. It shows you how much he has become just a staple. I mean, you didn't get a lot out of Drew Holiday, 7-8 points a game. Kristaps in his 4 games, 12 points, 5 boards. But Derek White just shined. I mean, completely. Just a dominant series on his side. Only 6 turnovers and 170 minutes of action. 5 blocks, 2 steals, 16 assists. I mean, just a complete series. And only got to the free throw line 10 times and hit 9 of those. So even though he had a lot of action and a lot of usage, didn't get to the line because he doesn't get a lot of calls. But just a dominant series for Derek White. And he was the complete reason why they won the last 3 games and they got Miami the hell out of there, which they needed to do. It was a relief, I think, to everybody, because I think people believed, as rightfully so, that Miami was going to take this series deep just because of Spoelstra and because some wacky things might happen. But after Game 2, order was restored. Derek was great. The rest of the guys played good defense, shut down Tyler Hero. But the MVP, unquestionably, if there was an MVP of the first round, is Derek White.
Unanimous vote. I think we all agree with that one. And then looking at the roster even more, who would you say was the most improved? Which, I mean, it could be argued that Derek White is also the most improved, but.
What, Sherrod?
The most improved? You know what? I'm gonna go with Sam Hauser. I'm gonna go
Oh
with
yeah.
I'm gonna go with Sam because I thought as the series went on, Sam got a little bit stronger, a little bit more impactful, and his defense I thought got better because I thought the first couple games he wasn't nearly as solid defensively as we'd seen throughout the regular season. And again, Sam ain't locking nobody up. Clank clank, that's not happening when Sam is defending you. But he's very good at keeping himself between the rim and the person who he's guarding. I didn't think he was very good in the first couple games. The last 3 games, I thought he was much better. And it seemed that as the shot started to fall a little bit, his defense got a little bit better, became a little bit more impactful. And that was good to see because they are going to need Sam Hauser to win a championship. They're going to need someone that they can rely on to knock down shots in a very limited amount of time. And that's the thing that he does well. To me, he has one of the best jobs in the NBA. He plays on a team with multiple starters who have shown the ability to score at an elite level, and your job to score.
Yeah.
When they get you the rocks, just shoot, let it fly. That's what you're supposed to do. Be solid defensively and get us some buckets offensively because those two other guys that you're playing with, they're going to draw enough attention that you're going to get some looks that you otherwise wouldn't get if, let's say, you're playing on a team like Miami. You wouldn't be those clean looks would not exist, not as clean as they are. So I thought he got better as the series progressed, and they're gonna, again, as I said, they're gonna need that to win a championship.
I gotta agree again with Sherrod, unfortunately.
See,
Sam Hauser was very good. 12 for 25 for the 3-point line, 8 points a game in 17 minutes. So, just scored basically a point every 2 minutes to help the team. And just was like Sherrod said also, was offered resistance defensively too, and picked up 11 rebounds, a couple of rebounds, like not a high amount, but enough. 11 rebounds in 5 games, 2.2 rebounds a game. That's what you want out of a guy. Just do little things, 3 assists, couple of steals, a block, like
had a dunk.
Yeah, do whatever it takes for you to win in your minutes. Be a star in your role. And that's what Sam Hauser was, because not everybody had a great series. It was Pritchard wasn't particularly good, in the series. Luke Cornett has moments. Drew Holiday was okay. I thought he was decent, especially, for the 3-point line. He was okay. He had his moments defensively. He shut down Hero. But Hauser, I think everybody's been waiting. I mean, I think last year he really didn't get much of an opportunity. This year he has flourished and he has a bona fide role. And I just think we've been waiting to see, can Sam Hauser, can Peyton Pritchard, can Luke Cornett flourish in the playoffs? Not against Charlotte on a Tuesday night when they're up 25 points, but in a critical playoff game when you get critical first quarter minutes, when you're trying to help your team build a lead. And he came in there in the second unit, midway through the first quarter. And obviously, as you could say, Sherrod, that first game 1, when he hit those threes, it was kind of close. I remember it was 26-21 in game 1 after the first quarter. The Celtics had jumped out of that big 14-0 lead. Miami kind of chipped away. And it was like, okay, this might be a struggle of a game. This is going to be a tough one because the Heat have kind of leveled it off, and they're going to make this a low-scoring battle. And what happens, Hauser hits 4 3-pointers in the second quarter, and suddenly I think the lead was 15 at halftime, and the Celtics went on to cruise. So those are key minutes, and that's what you hope in the next couple of series, like affect the game early, game 1, game 2, get your team victories, do the little things, and that's where you become an MVP of your role. And that's where you become more valuable off the bench.
Exactly, Garrett, because ain't nobody doing it the way Sam Hauser does off the bench. You know that. Ain't nobody doing it the way Sam Hauser did off the bench.
Love the enthusiasm. Yes. Overall, what would you say?
I feel you. I feel you, Sherrod. I feel you.
That's my dog.
Oh my gosh.
I feel you.
Well, not Wakanda forever. All right.
Folks, if you don't know our references, Kwani kind of has a Chaka Khan look today.
Oh my God.
Google Chaka Khan
Google
feel like
Chaka
our-
Khan. I'm talking about in her prime,
AKA
1980s Chaka Khan.
Yeah. Play
And
some of her music on YouTube.
yeah, oh, you will never, you will not, you will thank us forever playing some Chaka Khan.
Right. After
Oh,
you watch this on YouTube, of course. If you're
yeah.
watching on YouTube, finish the episode.
Ain't nobody does it better than Chaka Khan.
Nobody.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is so easy to play. I can make my Celtic picks and make my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals and easy gameplay and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Celtics and NBA fans, you can get in on Prize Picks in 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. On Prize Picks this week, I'm selecting Jason Tatum to dish out more than 5 assists and his teammate Jaylen Brown to have more than 22.5 points. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Prize Picks.
Moving on. Lessons learned from this Heat series. Fill in the blank.
What you got, Gary?
You know what? Take your opponent seriously. Don't slip. That game 2, and I'm not gonna come down and they were terrible. You know, they missed some shots. Miami got hot. It was kind of an anomaly. It was an outlier, an aberration, any word you want to use, but don't slip. Like, be constant, keep making adjustments, even off victories. And the Celtics are good enough to beat anybody pretty handily at this point. When they get to the finals, we'll see about that. But I just think they learned, like, you know what? Teams are not going to lay down for us, and we're going to have to win in different ways. And it's not always knocking down 3-pointers. In this series, they were, let me look at my, hood stats. 38.5% from 3. Nice average, 75 for 195. That's a good average, right? Not stupendous. They didn't shoot 50% or anything like that, but about what they shoot during the regular season. But they also won this game with defense, with rebounding, not letting Miami get second chance points, like all the other intangibles. They won this series not only with their offense. Their offense wasn't great. One game they scored 104 points. I think their best offensive game was last, 118. And they scored 102 in game 4. So some of these were rock fights, but they were dominant in those rock fights because they defended, they rebounded. They didn't let Miami get 50-50 balls. That's how teams can stay close, making those hustle plays, getting the second chance points, knocking away the loose ball and getting runouts and fast break points. Not at all. The Celtics dominated those statistics. And so to me, the lesson they learned is don't take your opponent lightly. I think they understood that. And 2, if you dominate other things besides 3-point shooting, other scoring, you'll still win pretty handily, even though some of those shots aren't going down. Some of those games, they weren't great behind the 3-point line, but they were good enough. And then Miami couldn't score. Miami couldn't get second chance points. Their defense was good. They dominated the boards, And so it's not only the Celtics shot Miami out the arena, they also dominated all the other statistics. And that's the thing. I mean, that's what you have to do. They out-rebounded Miami 228 to 181. So that's what, about 40. Ooh, boy, do my ghetto math. 28, 19, 47.
32, and then you just divide
47. So they out-rebounded them from 28 and 181, 19, 47 over 5 games. That's almost 9 rebounds, or that's 9.5 rebounds a game. That's going to make a difference. That's going to get you victories, the little things. And that's how you beat teams like Miami that play hard, that don't give up. Because and as much as I think that this was, Miami was shorthanded, no Butler, no Rozier, no Josh Richardson, and Jaime Jaquez missed game 5. This is the hardest playing team they'll play in the playoffs, and the most well-coached team, they'll play in the playoffs. So this was a good test for them. And I think they passed with flying colors.
Yeah, the lesson in this is that at the end of the day, your North Star has to be your defense. Because when you play that side of the ball at a high level, it doesn't matter what you do at the other end of the floor. You're going to find a way to win because your defense is that good. And I think sometimes they lose sight of what, frankly, is going to be successful in the postseason. They're still, in many respects, living off of that regular season glow where they can go out there, they can play mediocre defense some days, but just knocking down shots and win by like 20, 25 points. This time of year, you're not going to shoot the ball nearly as well. We see this year after year after year. Offenses have a much harder time being impactful and efficient when you get to the playoffs. But defense, if you have an elite defense, you're going to have a chance to win every single night if you're playing close to your best. And I thought that in the games that they won, their defense was dominant. I mean, that has to be what their focus is on going forward. I think, and again, that's, I don't know whether that's one of those Joe Mazzulla needs to really, really talk about that and speak that into existence, or whether that's one of those things where Tatum or Jalen or one of, Al Horford or one of their leaders or multiple leaders need to talk more and more about that so that it doesn't just become a talking point. It becomes a way of life because that, if you're going to win a championship, has to be the path. I don't care how well Tatum is knocking down shots. If you're not putting the clamps on kids defensively, you are going to not win a championship because there are too many teams that you're going to have to go through. If you get through the East, which they should, you look at all the teams that are still hanging around in the West, you're going to have to play great defense against any team that you face coming out of the West because they have a certain DNA about them that makes it so that if your defense is not straight, you're going to get sent straight home for the summer. 1, 2, 3 Cancun. That's going to be your mantra if you don't get your defense right. And I thought the Celtics, when they were locked in at that end of the floor, they were good. I mean, they were beating Miami by 20 points, like in Game 4, and they weren't very good offensively. But their defense was really good. They were forcing turnovers. They were doing all those little things, as Gary pointed out. But the big thing is their defense, and that has to be the mindset. Anything short of elite play defensively opens a Pandora's box of problems for you that could wind up you getting your ass whipped if you're not careful. So defense has to be the lesson that they take away from this first round series against Miami. That has to be at the top of their we got to get this done every night list.
Hey everyone, this is Kwani Lunis from the Big Three NBA podcast. As you know, we are very excited to see where the Celtics end up throughout this playoff round. And of course, as a result, it's always cool to attend games when you're following along with your favorite teams. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. They have prices on their app that actually go down closer to tip-off, which makes it easier to get a good deal. And with killer last-minute deals and all-in prices, also a view from where your seat will be, they also guarantee low prices, and Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying those tickets. All you need to do when you're on the app is pick out a specific game or matchup. All you need to do is go into the app and pick out that Boston matchup that you'd like to attend, look for a good deal, and just either wait it out or select a ticket right away. They have different features in the app, such as customizing your spot. Take all the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Moving on, Porzingis. There actually was a photo of him leaving the game yesterday without a brace, which I don't know if that really means much. But what is your level of concern over the fact that it seems as though the Celtics may have to play without him a little bit longer?
I think it's going to be a little bit more than a little bit longer.
Yeah, yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if he doesn't play a single game in the next round. Would not surprise me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that's why the matchup they face, I think, is important. not having Porzingis looks a lot different against Cleveland, for example, than not having Porzingis against Orlando.
That's true.
And so that to me is really, for the Celtics, it goes back to what I said earlier about just that defense. It has to be there, and whether he's in there or out there or not, it has to be there. My concern level for him is not real high because I still think that the Celtics can get past whatever team they face in the next round of the playoffs without Porzingis. It's that final layer, that final round to get to the NBA Finals where I think you really need to have him, because at that point, all the chips are on the table. It's then you have to get it done in that moment. You have to find a way to get past that one last team that's standing between you and a legitimate chance at winning a championship. And that is, to me, that's the all hands on deck portion of the program. You can beat Cleveland. You can beat Orlando without him. It's just not going to be a quick series. It's probably going to be a 6 or 7 game series because those teams, they have different strengths and they come at you in a different manner. But at the end of the day, both of them, I think, are defense is something that they kind of hang their hand, especially Orlando. Orlando has all that damn length everywhere. And, they got a wild card in Jonathan Isaac, who, if that dude could play 25, 30 minutes, Orlando's probably a top 2, top 3 team in the East because he's that impactful in the 15 or so minutes he plays. But, Banchero, all-star type of season. And you start going down the line, so many the Wagner brothers, who are a 1-2 punch problem, especially the one that got traded from Boston. He still play a little salty against Boston when he see them. Like, y'all do realize that y'all cut me loose for nothing, right? I'm gonna remind you why that probably wasn't the wisest thing for you to do. So the Celtics, again, I think having Porzingis, it certainly complicates things a little bit for Boston, but I think it becomes more of a bump in the road as opposed to a pothole that's going to leave your car disabled in the middle of 90 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm concerned, like, in terms of the next round. I think if you give him 3 weeks, and that's probably the start of the conference finals around that time, I think he'll be okay. Now, I don't think this is like a 6-week injury. I think it's maybe a 2 to 3 week injury. And I'm sure he's put in all the rehab, and they're going to be very cautious with him. I'm not as concerned. I think in terms of matchups, they have enough depth at center to be okay. You got not only have Horford, Fournette, you got the man that we really haven't talked about much, and that's Xavier Tillman. And I think he can be a difference maker in this series. And then you got Kata. Like, if you need, they've got 4 legitimate bigs. That's why you sign Kata for the playoffs. We talked about that during the year. Should they sign him to the playoff roster and sign him to a contract? They did. Tillman, we haven't seen much of him. We saw a little bit of him in Game 5, playing some garbage time minutes or whatever. But I think he'll get some minutes. And I think what's interesting to know about whoever the next series, if you've looked at the Cleveland, both those teams can look really good and look really bad.
Yeah.
Like, Cleveland was world beaters the first 2 games, go to Orlando and just literally look like look like the Charlotte Hornets, look like the worst team in the NBA.
Charlotte Hornets on a Tuesday, Gary.
Yeah,
Charlotte Hornets
on
a
Tuesday. They look like East Side High. Like, they look horrible, right? And then they kind of fight. And Orlando does the same thing. Orlando looks like terrible or not good the first 2 games and comes back. So that's the youth of the playoffs. Those are 2 teams that are still trying to figure out their playoff identity, right? When you look so good at home, if you look at the Celtics, like, they don't look great at home, they look great on the road. The Celtics can beat you anywhere, especially on the road. They're not going to come into a road venue and just look absolutely horrible, right? That hasn't happened all that much. I think the one Game 3 last year at Miami was the one that was probably the worst game of the Missoula era. But if you look at the Celtics, they can win anywhere. And if you look at the Magic or the Cavs, they can beat you, but they can also look inept. And that's the thing about, I think, the next opponent that gives the Celtics an advantage and may give them a break with Porzingis out is if the Celtics play steady ball, have a good game plan, they have more than enough without Porzingis to beat both teams in, to me, 5 or 6 games. I'm not talking about they're going to sweep them or whatever, but 5 or 6 games. Because I just think you can get one in Orlando, you can get one in Cleveland or whatever, and you just protect home court and you play steady ball. They played steady ball besides game 2. And I'm not going to say game 2, they had some turnovers, they missed some shots. Porzingis was just flat minus 32. So that was a strange game, but they still, with a couple of plays here and there, could have won that game, right? They still could have pulled it out by 3 or 4 points. I'm not talking they would have blown them out. That was the toughest game of the series, and they just couldn't make any plays toward the end of the game. But if you look at Cleveland and Orlando, and just look at them, they're flawed. Orlando does not have a point guard. Like Markelle Fultz, I look at the fourth quarter of that Cleveland game, at game 5, Banchero's running the point forward, trying to initiate offense. He's not that guy yet. He's very good. But the reason they struggled is they don't have a freaking point guard. They don't trust Markelle Fultz, right? They don't trust Fultz. Cole Anthony was disappeared. He was on a milk carton in that game. And then Jalen Suggs was like he's kind of their point guard, but he hasn't worked out there yet. So he's kind of like a defensive guard. So Orlando's got their weaknesses. Cleveland is mad inconsistent at times. So the Celtics, if they play solid ball without Porzingis, should be able to advance in 5 or 6 games, in my opinion.
All right, you teed this up perfectly. Up next, we know either the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Orlando Magic. Which would you two prefer to see, and what would be your concerns if the Celtics were to match up against either one of them? Even though you kind of started answering it, Gary.
Go ahead, Gary. Finish what you started.
Oh, I mean, my concern is size, obviously. Like Orlando beat the Celtics in Orlando this year during the play-in tournament game. They kind of bullied them. They were really, really physical. Like Sherrod mentioned, Mo Wagner had a big game. It was kind of everything. I think Porzingis, I don't know I think he might have gotten hurt in that game too. That was kind of a strange game where the Celtics, Tatum wasn't good. It was just one of those kind of funky games. And if you look at the one they lost against Cleveland, we all know the Dean Wade game. I don't think Dean Wade's there. I think he's out for the season now, so there'll be no Dean Wade miracles. But I just think the size of those two teams, Orlando is a big physical team. Cleveland has 2 bigs in Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. Donovan Mitchell always will put a fright into you because that dude is like Dwayne Wade, modern day Dwayne Wade, just with his physicality, his ability to get to the basket. And then Karis LeVert has always played well against the Celtics. So both teams have potential to take 1 or 2 games and make it a long series. I think Orlando's probably a better matchup because of their inexperience. And I think the Celtics can game plan, but Cleveland, both teams. And remember, Cleveland, like JB Bickerstaff's job might be on the line because I think there's kind of an impatience in Cleveland where you got Mitchell and you got Garland, and you got LeVert, and you got these guys here, and like y'all can't get out the first round. So this is a big series. This Orlando's game. This is a big series for Bickerstaff. And the next series, I'm sure will be big too. But I think both teams have the potential to take them to deep series. But I think probably Orlando might be the better matchup because of their inexperience, their lack of a real true point guard. And then Orlando has trouble scoring. They're going to have to make every game a rock fight.
Facts.
Do you have an answer, Sherrod?
Yeah, Sherrod.
He just said facts.
Facts.
He said, I agree.
No, the team that I worry more about is Cleveland. And the reason why, because Cleveland has, I think, the type of identity that the Celtics don't necessarily have the strength to combat. They have size, they have length, and they have two guys, in Mobley, and another big fella, Allen, that can cause you problems with the Celtics. Both of those guys are real, particularly Jared Allen has gotten significantly better as a player, and I think can cause some problems if they're not careful. So to me, Cleveland is the team that I would not want to necessarily face. I'd rather see Orlando because again, Cleveland, I see them as a team that you can still beat them, but I think Cleveland's going to make you work harder to put them away. Orlando, I think, is a team that's by simply doing what you do well defensively, you're going to put them in a position where they can't score. And even when your guys have subpar score performances, you're still good enough to put up 110 points on a team, even if you're not playing or 100 points on a team. And that's, to me, a much easier path to getting out of the second round and onto the conference finals if it's Orlando that you're dealing with. But as I mentioned earlier, though, the guy to me, if you're facing Orlando, that I worry about if I'm the Celtics, is a guy like Jonathan Isaac. You know what Banchero is going to do. You know what the Wagner brothers are going to do. But, it's those other guys that are going to play who can make an impact on the series. And Isaac, to me, he's just he can score, he can rebound, he can defend, he can do all the things that guys with his size and length you want them to do, but can't. And I worry about a series against Orlando if he is playing the way that he's capable of. Because when he's on, he's really on at both ends of the floor. That's what makes him such a unique talent. But like I said, in a best of seven, I definitely see the Celtics winning it in 6 or 7, but it's not going to be easy. Cleveland, I think, will be a tougher challenge, but Orlando's not going to be no walk in the park either.
And with that being said, the final portion of this episode, fill in the lane. Blank needs a big second round series for Boston. Who is it?
Tatum. Tatum. Listen, Tatum basically got a vacation in his first round. I know he had 4 double-doubles and 1 triple-double, against Miami, but you never really felt that he had a game where his imprint was on the game. And they're going to need that at this point going forward, because this is a time when your best players shine. This is a time when your best players lead you to not just victory, but they just lead you an overall impact of the game. This is Tatum's time to put his stamp on this postseason run for the Celtics, because you look back at the first round, Derek White, big game. Jaylen Brown was the lead scorer. And with no Porzingis, they're really going to need Tatum to step up even more so. So to me, that's the guy that they really need to have a big series, because he didn't have one last round, and I don't think they can necessarily count on another subpar Tatum series, and that's still leading them out of the second round and into the conference finals.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Tatum has to step up and be big. And I'm not talking about, he can do the all-around stuff, rebounding, playing defense, being more of a playmaker, but I'm talking about like scoring, getting not standing in the corner. There's a couple plays last night. He just he wasn't part of the offense, and he just stood in the corner with his hands on his hips. Like, he needs to be more moving around a little bit more and more active. And maybe, the ankle might have been bothering him a little bit, and the Celtics didn't really need him with Brown and White kind of going off. But you need premium Tatum in this series. You need him in this next series, you need him to lead the way. It can't always be Derek White. And, I trust Jaylen too, but I think Tatum's got to step up, knock down those 3-pointers, get to the rim. He got a lot of free throw attempts in Game 5. I think that's good. It's a good sign. You just be a complete player and take advantage of your scoring opportunities. And, I know he likes to kind of, give way to Brown in the first quarter, but it's okay to get off to a hot start too. It's okay to shoot the ball. Like a couple of those first quarters in Miami and against Miami, he wasn't really even shooting the ball until the second quarter. So we need to see more active Jason. That we need to see 30 points per game, Jason, in this series to make things a little easier. Now, they can still win him averaging 21, but we know he's capable of more.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. So looking ahead, as we mentioned, we still are waiting as of Thursday to see who will win the Cleveland and Orlando series. And then we'll go from there and figure out, how we assess the rest of the second round for the Celtics. So until then, we appreciate you guys listening, still sticking around with us. Of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share with a friend. Share this episode with a Cavs or Magic fan or a Heat fan, whoever.
Or a Chaka Khan fan.
Or
I feel for
Chaka,
you.
yeah, I think they'd
Feel for
appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah.
I think there are many ways to share this. So until next week, when we know who the next round will be against, for Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis. We appreciate you guys listening.
Ain't nobody does me better.
You don't have the rights for that.